Hello, it's Miss Rofer here, and I'm reading chapter 5 of Stormbreaker, 00 Nothing. For the 100th time, Alex cursed Alan Blunt using language he hadn't even realised he knew. It was almost 5 o'clock in the evening, although it could have been 5 o'clock in the morning. The sky had barely changed at all throughout the day. It was grey, cold, unforgiving. The rain was still falling, a thin drizzle that travelled horizontally in the wind, soaking through his supposedly waterproof clothing, mixing with his sweat and his dirt, chilling him to the bone. He unfolded his map and checked his position once again. He had to be close to the last RV of the day, the last rendezvous point, but he could see nothing. He was standing on a narrow track made up of loose grey shingle that crunched under his combat boots when he walked. The track snaked around the side of a mountain with a sheer drop to the right. He was somewhere in the Brecon Beacons, and they should have been a few, but it had been wiped out by the rain and the fading light. A few trees twisted out of the side of the hill, with leaves as hard as thorns. Behind him, below him, ahead of him, it was all the same. Nowhere land. Alex hurt. The 10-kilogram Bergen rucksack he had been forced to wear cut into his shoulders and had rubbed blisters on his back. His right knee, where he had fallen earlier in the day, was no longer bleeding, but still stung. His shoulder was bruised and there was a gash along the side of his neck. His camouflage outfit, he had swapped his Gap combat trousers for the real thing, fitted him badly, cutting his legs and under his arms, but hanging loose everywhere else. He was close to exhaustion. He knew, almost too tired to feel how much pain he was in. But for the glucose and caffeine tablets in his survival pack, he would have ground to a halt hours ago. He knew that if he didn't find the RV soon, he would be physically unable to continue. Then he would be thrown off the course, binned as they call it. They would like that. Swallowing down the taste of defeat, Alex folded the map and forced himself on. It was his 9th, or maybe his 10th day of training. Time had begun to dissolve into itself, as shapeless as the rain. After his lunch with Alan Blunt and Mrs. Jones, he had been moved out of the manor house and into a crude wooden hut in the training camp a few miles away. There were 9 huts in total, each equipped with 4 metal beds and 4 metal lockers. A 5th had been squeezed into one of them to accommodate Alex. 2 more huts, painted a different colour, stood side by side. One of these was a kitchen and mess hall. The other contained toilets, sinks and showers, with not a single hot tap in sight. On his first day there, Alex had been introduced to his training officer, an incredibly fit black sergeant. He was the sort of man who thought he'd seen everything, until he saw Alex, and then he had examined the new arrival for a long minute before he had spoken. "It's not my job to ask questions," he had said, "but if it was, I'd want to know what they're thinking of sending me children. Do you have any idea who you are, boy? This isn't Centre Parks. This isn't the Club Mediterranee." He cut the word into 5 syllables and spat them out. "I have you for 11 days, and they expect me to give you the sort of training that should take 14 weeks. That's not just mad, that's suicidal." "I didn't ask to be here," Alex had said. Suddenly the sergeant was furious. "You don't speak to me unless I give you permission," he shouted. "And when you do speak to me, you address me as Sir. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Alex had already decided that the man was even worse than his geography teacher. "There are 5 units operational here at the moment," the officer went on. "You'll join K Unit. We don't use names. I have no name. You have no name. If anyone asks you what you're doing, you tell them nothing. Some of the men may be hard on you. Some of them may resent you being here. That's too bad. You'll just have to live with it. And there's something else you need to know. I can make allowances for you. You're a boy, not a man. But if you complain, you'll be binned. If you cry, you'll be binned. If you can't keep up, you'll be binned. Between you and me, boy, this is a mistake, and I want to bin you." After that, Alex joined K Unit. As the sergeant had predicted, they weren't exactly overjoyed to see him. There were 4 of them. As Alex was soon to discover, the Special Operations Division of MI6 sent its agents to the same training centre used by the Special Air Service, the SAS. Much of the training was based on SAS methods, and this included the numbers and makeup of each team. So there were 4 men, each with their own special skills, and 1 boy, seemingly, with none. They were all in their mid-20s, spread out over the bunks in companionable silence. 2 of them smoking, one dismantling and reassembling his gun, a 9mm Browning high-power pistol. Each of them had been given a code name: Wolf, Fox, Eagle and Snake. From now on, Alex would be known as Cub. The leader, Wolf, was the one with a gun. He was short and muscular with square shoulders and black, coarse-cropped hair. He had a handsome face, made slightly uneven by his nose, which had been broken at some time in the past. He was the first to speak. Putting the gun down, he examined Alex with a cold, dark grey eyes. "So who the hell do you think you are?" he demanded. "Cub," Alex replied. "A bloody schoolboy." Wolf spoke with a strange, slightly foreign accent. "I don't believe it. Are you with Special Operations?" "I'm not allowed to tell you that." Alex went over to his bunk and sat down. The mattress felt as solid as the frame. Despite the cold, there was only one blanket. Wolf shook his head and smiled humorously. "Look what they've sent us," he muttered. 007? 00 nothing, more like. After that, the name stuck. 00 nothing was what they called him. In the days that followed, Alex shadowed the group, not quite part of it, but never far away. Almost everything they did, he did. He learned map reading, radio communication and first aid. He took part in an unarmed combat class and was knocked to the ground so often that it took all his nerve to persuade himself to get up again. And then there was the assault course. 5 times he was shouted and bullied across the nightmare of nets and ladders, tunnels and ditches, swinging tight ropes and towering walls that stretched for almost half a kilometre through and over the woodland beside the huts. Alex thought of it as the adventure playground from hell. The first time he tried it, he fell off a rope and into a pit that seemed to have been filled on purpose with freezing slime. Half drowned and filthy, he had been sent back to the start by the sergeant. Alex thought he would never get to the end, but the second time he finished it in 25 minutes, which he cut to 17 minutes by the end of the week. Bruised and exhausted though he was quietly pleased with himself. Even Wolf only managed it in 12. Wolf remained actively hostile towards Alex. The other 3 men simply ignored him, but Wolf did everything he could to taunt or humiliate him. It was as if Alex had somehow insulted him by being placed in the group. Once, crawling under the nets, Wolf lashed out with his foot, missing Alex's face by a centimetre. Of course, he would have said it was an accident if the boot had connected. Another time, he was more successful, tripping Alex up in the mess hall and sending him flying, along with his tray, cutlery and steaming plate of stew. And every time he spoke to Alex, he used the same sneering tone of voice. "Good night, 00 nothing. Don't wet the bed." Alex bit his lip and said nothing, but he was glad when the 4 men were sent off for a day's jungle survival course. This wasn't part of his own training, even though the sergeant worked him twice as hard once they were gone. He preferred to be on his own. But on the 8th day, Wolf did come close to finishing them all together. It happened in the Killing House. The Killing House was a fake, a mock-up of an embassy used to train the SAS in the art of hostage release. Alex had twice watched K-Unit go into the house, the first time swinging down from the roof, and had followed their progress on CCTV. All 4 men were armed. Alex himself didn't take part because someone somewhere had decided he shouldn't carry a gun. Inside the Killing House, mannequins had been arranged as terrorists and hostages, smashing down the doors and using stun grenades to clear the rooms with deafening, multiple blasts. Wolf, Fox, Eagle and Snake had successfully completed their mission both times. This time, Alex had joined them. The Killing House had been booby-trapped. They weren't told how. All 5 of them were unarmed. Their job was simply to get out from one end of the house to the other without being killed.